again. Welcome to Conversations with
Chris
and Crystal. And today, what are we discussing today?
Well, we were talking earlier about getting your affairs in order because, what you think is going to happen after you're gone may not be what's going to really happen
After you're gone.
I think
been there, done that, seen it. Yes, many times.
We've both had family members who they've passed on, and they're like, I'm just going to let the kids fight it out.
Hash it out, yeah.
But they didn't really think that the kids would literally fight it out.
Yeah, that's the really sad part. We'd love to hear from you guys if you know of anybody who's made some efforts in this area and has done well with getting their affairs in order and having the children be involved. I know, my mom and her brother, when their parents finally had passed away, and they were so frustrated with everything, and it had to be exactly even and all that kind of stuff. In fact, they were mad because one of the insurance policies that my grandfather had was $1,000, and it was for me. And they were like, well, what's up with that? I mean, you're talking six figures here for both people, and this measly $1,000 became everything at that moment.
That's another thing. The more money you've got, the more you need to get your affairs in order.
You have to tell them.
Money brings out the worst in people.
It absolutely does. And I never expected to see that firsthand. And in fact, it got so volatile that one started yelling at the other to the point that I literally regressed back to when I was 5. And I started crying and convulsing because it was so, what's the word I want? It was
stressful.
So stressful, and it was
traumatic?
Very traumatic, very traumatizing. Yes, it was horrible. And I was like, wow, I got to pull myself together. But I was just gone. I was back in that when I was young, and there was a lot of violence in our house, and it was there during that time. And I thought, wow, if this is what it does, who wants to do this? And I never did see the $1,000. But again, 10 years later, my mom asked me about it, if I ever got it. Yeah, and I said no, and she said, well, they took it, and I really didn't care because there was so much volatility, so much violence, so much emotion behind that money that I'm almost glad my grandparents weren't there to see that. I mean, good Lord.
They would have been horrified.
Yeah, they would have been like, you know what? We're just going to burn it, and then you guys can figure out what to do then. I mean, oh man. We have pastors in our family, and they've said too, they've watched it with many different families through the years.
Yeah.
It absolutely brings out the worst in people. And so yes, you really need to have your affairs in order. You need to have that together.
It depends on the people that your family gets involved with.
Who they married. Yes. Things can change. Now, my parents have a deal with the University of Minnesota, I believe it is, where they can donate their bodies to science for a year. They will come and get them, go, take them, and then they will bring them back and bury them or cremate them, whichever one you want, and they'll pay for all of it.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's one way to take care of your situation. I haven't looked into that yet, but I think I'd like to.
Oh, yeah, because I don't know, it just kind of creeps me out a little bit. But I've already started making my arrangements because I figure, who else is going to do it? I don't have a husband, I don't have children, so it's up to me. And I know my brother's family's not going to be able to do it. So I bought my plot, and I bought my casket, and it's yellow, of course.
Of course.
But it's not like they ship it to you and you have to use it as somewhere a bed or something. It's a pre-need thing, and it's Titan caskets online. You can look them up if you're interested, and they're at least $1,000 cheaper than any funeral home. Okay. And all funeral homes have to take them. It's your right to get your casket from wherever you want to get it. And they keep it, and they will ship it when the time comes. They will ship it, and usually get it there by the next day. And they also, I thought, well, what if they go out of business before that? And what they do is they keep all the money in a trust, and it will be refunded if
Something
they go
should
out of
go wrong,
business,
yeah,
or
right,
if
okay.
I don't.
They don't get the right casket, or
Yeah, or I decide not to use them after all, or whatever. So I'm not real worried about it. And the plot and the casket, I'm paying over time. The casket is like $25 a month for 5 years, no interest, and the plot is like $110 a month for 5 years, no interest.
yeah, yeah.
And once all that's paid off, then I'll think about getting the headstone and all the other stuff you have to take care of.
Well, and that's what happened with Jeff's mom. She had paid ahead of time for her cremation. What I didn't understand, she moved around a few times after her husband passed away, and she ended up in Minnesota. And, we were not in a good financial situation at the time, and the family called us and said, hey, we need $1,500. And I'm like, well, no, she was all paid for. And I went to the guys here, and they explained that there were only certain funeral homes that, there's several thousand of them in the country, but you have to go to one of those funeral homes so that they will take your payment, and know that you paid for it. But if you go to another one, they don't accept that.
So they took her to the.
They took her to their friendly family funeral home, and
Did they?
I don't know. We told them, you skip it. I mean, she had it paid for. We knew that. We knew that going in, and it was their choice to bring her somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So therefore, go ahead, do what you want.
And sometimes too, that can be a problem when you're like my parents. They originally bought a plot down in Chandler. Well, then they moved out here to Mesa, and we had another relative who died, who was buried at Mariposa Gardens. Mm-hmm. And so they decided they'd want to be buried there too. So they couldn't just transfer that plot because you have to live at least 75 miles away from where you bought your plot for them to transfer it.
Oh, wow.
So,
but it's not. 75.
No, yeah. So they bought it, they bought their plot here, and then I helped my mom sell the old plots, advertise it on Craigslist, and and then like nothing happened. It took maybe a year or two before somebody finally just bought it.
Yeah,
but it worked out. And
I would think at the funeral home or the place, they would know that those are for sale. And as people come in and say, I want to buy a plot.
They don't want to. See, that's another thing, because
that's interesting.
If you when you go to a cemetery, they're not going to help somebody get rid of their plot that they decided not to use, because that's money out of their pocket. They're going to sell a new plot to people.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That sucks. Yeah, that doesn't work.
And so,
for me.
And that's another thing. Another way that people can save money is by looking for ads for people who are trying to sell a plot, because they will sell it for typically less money than what you would pay if you're buying it brand new from the cemetery. Okay. So, yeah,
are people worried about having a used plot? I mean,
well, it was not used.
I know, that's what I mean. It sounds like it is, Yeah. Oh, that's just frightening. That's just frightening. I had to laugh too. My mom got. There's the funeral or the cemetery that she's in have rock gardens, and so they're rocks that are made out of like a fiberglass or whatever, and they have cylinders in them. There's two per rock. And so, of course, she wasn't married at the time, so my little brother is right next to her, which is not exactly where he wants to be, but apparently I think when she bought it, she had to buy two. Oh. So, he said nobody was more surprised than me when I went over there and my name was on this tube. Yeah, it kind of spooked him out a little bit. But yeah.
Well, that was another thing. When my dad died and they bought this original plot at Mariposa Gardens, I could have sworn that the guy who sold it to them said that there's room for two bodies plus a crematory urn to be buried in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's what I swear that he said. But then when I went back to make my arrangements here to get my own plot, the guy was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you were told that because it's only two bodies per plot.
Yeah.
So there could not be a third one even cremated there. So I was like, okay, well,
Interesting.
and I had changed my mind about cremation anyway.
Yeah,
I decided,
yeah.
if I can afford it, I'm going to get myself planted instead of burned. But, you know.
Okay, all right. So we were just, that this is something we were just chatting about, some of the experiences that we've had with it, and how it got resolved. Maybe not. My family never resolved anything. They didn't talk to each other then for 30 years after that, and
Well, and another thing is, a lot of people think it's morbid. I don't want to think about dying or whatever, but we all die.
Yeah,
it's like
it
we all
is
were
a fact,
born.
yeah.
We're all going to die.
Yeah.
Don't let it bring you down.
And
It's
don't-
just
Yeah, don't let your kids have to deal with
Yeah,
it.
because it's expensive, and it gets more expensive every year that goes by.
Yeah.
Because the grand total of my arrangements, once they're all taken care of, is going to be about $15,000.
Yeah, yeah.
15,000. Think about
Yeah.
that. And then in another 5 years, it'll probably be like 20,000. So the sooner you get your arrangements in place, the better. Now, if you're really young, you might want to wait a while because you don't know where you're going to be. So you
That's
don't want
true.
to end
That's a
up
good
with,
point. Yeah.
with a plot where you're not going to, you're
Even
going to
live
move
there,
out of
yeah.
state or
Yeah.
something. I mean, yes, they can ship you back, but that's another expense. So, think about, but just, if nothing else, start a savings account, like a certificate of deposit
Sure.
or something,
Yeah.
towards that.
Yeah.
So that your family doesn't have to go, oh, I don't have this money, and they don't have the money. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My aunt and uncle have a bench, marble bench on their plots.
Oh, nice.
That and they're not. I mean, they're not physically there at this point, but their names and their date of birth is on there, on the bench, and they go to visit it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Picnics on their bench?
Yeah, I think so. And so they have that all arranged and prearranged, and they know that that's where they are going to be, and they spend time there already, which is kind of cool when you think about it. That they already, when you go to see them, you know that they had been there before.
Yeah.
You know that was a place that they went to, my grandparents. It was. Now, I know that they do the two on top of each other like that, and, but back in the day they didn't.
Yeah, they used to be side by side.
Yeah, and so my great-grandparents, were 1, 2, and then they had 3 children, so they had 5 plots, which of course, the children all moved away and nobody used them.
Yeah,
and so,
and that's another thing to be cautious of. If you're like, oh, I'll just get my children's plots taken care of now, maybe you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where they're going to be.
Right. You don't know where they're going to end up or how that's going to work. And in fact, there's 1 plot left of the 5, and one of my brothers, who's single, said, well, maybe I'll take that. I'll see about look into maybe I can get that from them because it's But that'd be by our grandparents and our great grandparents. Yeah.
So a lot of things to think about.
It is. So just wanted to consider, what my family should know, a booklet, and you can buy these at, where is it, Staples, Office Depot, anything like that, where you can write in all the information.
Or online, you can get them from Amazon.
Yes.
I got one called After I'm Gone or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, so that they have them all in one place. You can probably, I wish this one had little pockets. It would be nice to have something with a pocket here that you could put the policy in.
Crafting time. What you can do is you can get a piece of cardstock or an old file folder and cut it to fit and tape it to it, and then you've got a little pocket in it.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I did that on mine.
Okay.
And you can put in there pictures of things like the dress that I want to wear. I put a picture of it, and anything that you want to be buried with, if that applies. And you can write down, any arrangements you want, like if you want a particular hymn sung or a particular song of any kind, or flower types, if you want any flowers, or if you don't want any flowers, if you want them to make donation in your name or whatever. things like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like planning for a wedding, only.
Kind of, yeah, it is, and just having all the information in one place. I think, life insurance policy numbers, bank accounts, savings,
Your
securities.
passwords for your computer, if
Lord.
or look on my. You can say look on
So
my
many.
computer for information about this, that, and the
Yeah,
other.
you could do that. Yeah, or you could have it on a thumb drive.
Oh,
and
yeah.
have it and put it with your stuff.
That's a good idea too.
Yeah, they could just pop that in anywhere.
And another important detail, though, is make sure you put this book somewhere that they're going to find it pretty fast after you've died. You don't want them to come across it a year. Oh, gosh, we didn't do anything that they wanted because we didn't see this. And a friend of mine, she has her information in her family Bible. She put it in there because it's like on their coffee table or something.
Right.
Not everybody does that. So
Yeah, I actually we did a will, and I sent it to my brother. I sent him a copy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Make sure that
They've seen it. They know that it exists. If nothing else, that you've got it. Okay, where are you going to put it? And that way we can get it out of there. Or you can send me a copy that I can keep and have just in case. Always a good idea.
when you make a will, the person that you put in charge of distributing your estate definitely must have a copy of
Yeah,
that.
they should have a copy of it. Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, some things to consider, and we look forward to hearing your comments on it.
Thoughts,
And
reactions.
Yep.
What you've done,
Yes.
if anything.
Yeah.
What you
Yeah.
plan to do.
Yes, that'd be great. So again,
Remember,
remember, take care of yourself because nobody else will.